What I love is bringing people into simple collective ritual together. I really feel and have experienced the importance of community and togetherness in the past many years, and the community feels like the next currency, really. And I realize how basic, simple ritual has really been removed from our culture. It wasn't that long ago that our very native peoples were told that their ceremonies were illegal, that they couldn't practice them. The Native Americans had to create a church in order to call what their ceremonies were a religion. So it was a religious act. And what I've discovered as I bring people into ritual is that most people, because we're not steeped and we haven't been given some of these tools of holding each other, holding grief, and being together in this way, that there's a lot that had been suppressed and been held on to from our past, from our ancestors, from our own life experience. And unexpressed emotion is trauma. And so naturally when we come together, there's some things that come to the surface, and it's one of the reasons why our relationships have been really challenged in this time. It feels like the spiritual rubber hits the road in our relationships. And the most fundamental relationship that we have to life is our breath. And when we begin to tune in and circulate our breath, there's many phenomena that begin to happen in the body. The main thing that we come up against is our own resistance. Some of the conditioned ways of our survival mechanisms that we begin to contract or control or resist or to push away our feeling nature. So when people are coming to breath work, they're signing up intrinsically to get better at feeling. And this is very healing. It's very important at this time, I feel, to become more emotionally mature so that we can hold space for one another, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows, in our lives today. If you're a parent, if you're holding any sort of awareness about what's going on in the world, a part of our human existence is the experience of suffering. And Buddha said that there is an end to suffering, even though it's an aspect of our life. And the end to suffering is to remove the causes of suffering. And so the difference that we see in traditional psychology or transpersonal work is that talk therapy only goes so deep. It's beautiful to come together and to pass a feather and to share our hearts and have a community hold us accountable to our prayers and the things that we want to see. The ritual space that I love to bring people into utilizes the medicine of breath. And when we circulate our breath, we begin to raise our vibrational frequency. We're electromagnetic beings. And the ancients of all reminded us that the universe lives within us, and we're now seeing the very mathematical science that from the molecular structure on a cellular level, there's the same mathematical proportions to the farthest reaches of the galaxies. And so what we eventually find is that there's wholeness and intelligence that lives in the body, that we have everything that we need within us to activate and aliven what's true in us, our heart sense and gratitude, appreciation for life. But in that process, we're going to come up against our sadness, our grief, and some of the fears, maybe of this great authority that has felt like disempowerment or the misuse of power. So the most important component in ritual space is a really good, humble, grounded leader that's done plenty of work on themselves enough to really hold a safe space, so people can go into those deep, dark places within themselves and feel comfortable going there. And there is also a very common fear of what wants to be unleashed and what's it going to look like. And one of the things I've experienced the more that I share breath work is that we're always capable of what arises in the experience, because it doesn't all move at once. And we get a lot more work done together. But this is a practice that anyone has access to at any time, that they can empower themselves with, uplift, and self-regulate their own nervous system with in a very simple, very gentle way. Traditional Western breath work has been a little bit ambitious, as we're addicted to peak experiences, but we can also very effectively integrate peak experiences in our life with a very gentle, calming practice that's brief. And this might just take a few minutes for you to slow down your brainwave frequencies and lean more into rest and digest in your nervous system in a way that you feel a little bit more calm, and also to give ourselves permission to discharge some of the heavy tendencies that we experience. One of the things that we've seen with children, for example, when they aren't given any ritual practice in their lives, which I experienced a lot of in Mexico, the ritual ceremonies of Sweat Lodge, for example, are very available to the regular public for young people to come and integrate some of the heavy stress that they were managing in the environment that they were growing up in. And when that's not available, there's a tendency to create accidents and heavy circumstances in order to outlive some of those heavy tendencies of those natural aspects of our life. So the reflection that we get in circle, often we see beauty and power more in others than we see in ourselves, and eventually we come around to acknowledge that I'm actually able to acknowledge these things in myself as well. Self-love is no longer a cliche. We really have to nourish ourselves more and take care of ourselves more, so that we have more to give and more capacity to hold all of the things that are coming up in our lives. And really it's about relationship, and the more that we can get in touch with ourselves and more deeply relate with ourselves, I feel that we can turn this ship around as we more deeply relate to nature, and we see what needs to be corrected in our world. So my call is for more sustainability, and I know that we can create more harmony and more peace with safe communities that are holding each other not only accountable, but in love and togetherness.